Thanks, everyone. It's my honor to be here. We based out in Shanghai, so it's not very often that we can see the real people using our apps. Does anyone use Tapatalk here at all? Yeah. Oh, quite a few of you guys. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Tapatalk and as a developer, how we get started and how we build a team of 15 engineers working on Tapatalk specifically in Shanghai, and I just try to share all the tips and lessons learned that we had over the 2 years. So for those who don't know or who never heard of Tapatalk, it's a forum apps. So it's an app like Facebook, like Twitter. It's a social app, but it connects to 10,000s of forums. So when we started in 2008, I was very naive that I just wanted apps for me to check out forums. So I love to check out the Mac Murmurs, Volkswagen, and of course the Mac Talk in Australia, one of the early adapter of Tapatalk. So we decided to start the project, and we bought the Mac and the first generation iPod to start programming. So I have never done any Objective-C programming. I worked for IBM and Hewlett-Packard before, and I was a Java enterprise architect before that. So never written a line of C++. So took me a while to write something. But of course, you need partners. For Tapatalk, it's very tedious task because we need to connect to so many forums. So for us, it's crucial for us to find partners who are really good on the server-side programming. So we had this idea in 2008, August, and it took us 9 months to really develop an app to the App Store. And this is our first logo of Tapatalk. You have never seen it, and I'll tell you why. Does anyone notice any problem with this logo? No? Okay, I'll tell you why. So we submit the app to the App Store in January. It took us a month to get a response from Apple and saying that, hey, your logo is like an iPhone and we can accept it. So we go back and design another one. We submit it again and get rejected again the next month. Took us 35 days to respond and tell us that your design is like App Store design, so they can't accept that as well. So we fix it. 1 month later, they reject it and saying that your app's description has something wrong. You can't mention beta, you can't mention Nokia or other competitor at all. Okay, so we fixed the description, and you would think it would be pretty fast for them to get back. And then 1 month later, they tell us that your apps contains user-generated content. We can't accept it at all, and you need to set it to 18 plus. Okay, so we set it 18 plus. So it's a forum, right? It's like a web browser. How do I control the content of each forum? So it took us a bit of time to talk to Apple and say, hey, look, likewise for Facebook, they can't control the content, but we start to put in some filtering, make sure that there's no image that you really want to see, but you don't want to see it on the apps in the App Store. Okay, so we fixed this part, but one thing we didn't realize is 1 month later, Mac Talk or other forums talks about jailbreaking content. They reject it. They say, hey, your apps cannot talk about jailbreaking. Okay, so we start to contact the forum owners, ask them to hide those sub-forums from the apps, and ask them to put it back as soon as our apps is uploaded. Okay, so we get past that, and so it's version 1.0, so what do you expect, right? So it took us almost 7 months to get our apps approved and get online. At one point, I would really thought about maybe I just should stop doing it. I can't stand waiting for that long and with no income and then with no expectation or result or feedback from anyone else. So it's really a difficult start for us at that time. Compared to today in Apple, they were very good. And coincidentally, in November, have you heard of Paul Graham? Yeah. So he wrote a very good articles about Apple's mistake at that time. And I feel that Apple actually read these articles and they start fixing a lot of stuff back then. So after that, it's all good. The apps is online, but it took us a lot of attempts to really get the apps the way it is right now. So we make lots of mistakes. We make a Nokia apps. We make a BlackBerry apps. We design a horrible looking logos. Well, I am a programmer, so I started to learn how to use Photoshop to make logos myself. So that's the first one I make on the left. That's by me. Yeah. So it's fascinating to see how after 2 years nowadays that the apps become more mature and we are able to really afford hiring a full-time graphic designers, UI experience architect to do the apps. But looking back for the past 2 years, it's really an amazing journey as a developers who work for a big company and try to be independent, try to work from yourself. And after 2 years, our apps become a little bit more popular. More forums knows about it. They start to install Tapatalk. And it's fascinating to see it actually gets to the top of the app chart in the US and around the world too. It's not like a top on the games like Doodle Jump, but it's very nice to see your work being recommended by other people. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we did it, and I hope you will find that useful as well. So in terms of promoting the apps, what we observe on the App Store is how the apps is being discovered. Okay. We put a lot of effort on modifying the keywords, app descriptions, make sure that the apps get discovered better. For people who use Flipboard, we put the keywords in Flipboard and it shows up right next to it. So, well, if you use Flipboard, if you use forums, chance you'll use Flipboard as well, right? So, and I just want to talk about the rating of the apps. It's really, really important. I have very good numbers here. We had a time that the app having a lot of problem, and it's only get 3 stars for the couple months of the period of time. And we noticed that as soon as we get back to 4 stars or 4.5 stars, you will see the sales actually jumps. What we noticed is 35% of our sales would increase if you have a good rating of the apps. So how do you improve your rating? Well, the first thing is to build a better apps, for sure, right? But the next thing you can really help is get people to rate your apps. So I'm sure you guys are annoyed by all the rate me alert, right, on the different apps. But it's really crucial for the people who like your apps to be able to tell other users. Because for people who have negative experience, they tend to more proactive to give you bad rating on the App Store. So, but there's a little trick to do it. We find it really useful that we only show it to users who use it intensively of your apps. So they tend to be really like your apps. So you don't show it to them the first time. Don't show it to them the 10th time, but maybe the 50th time, so 100 times. Okay. And the second one is that when your apps crash, then don't ask for the rate. Right? So, so if your app crash and then the next time it starts and you ask for rate, for sure you'll get a 1-star rating. So we try to reset the rate counter back to 0 when the apps crash. So it helps a little bit. And another thing we do is we can also remotely turn off the alert when the app's having problem that you don't have time to fix yet, or you're waiting for Apple to approve your new apps. So I think that also helps. It's a little trick. And the last one is crash report. We actually create our own crash report. And when we see bad rating on the App Store, one of the problems with Apple is you can't really contact the person, right? You only see the nickname of the bad rating. You want to talk to them, but you don't know how to do it. Very often we find it very useful is we can actually find their email address from the iTunes review. How do we do it is, when they send you a crash report by email, we use email exclusively because we find it is great because we can really talk to the user immediately. So we build a crash report, and it goes to all my Gmail folder. So you can see there are 28,000 crashes for iPhone, and it's great because when you see something suspicious, you can really email them to talk to them. And send them a beta to test it, and so on and so forth. It really accelerates your bug fixing cycles. The next one I want to talk about is how often do you want to update your apps? Many people tell me that, hey, Winter, you need to update your apps very frequently because just so people can really enjoy all the new features and stuff, but at the same time you want to play it safe because we want to make sure that the app is in good quality, well tested, and so on and so forth. And one thing it's very difficult for us to do is to support so many different forums on the internet. They run on Windows, they run on Linux, different servers set up. So it's not like Facebook or Twitter is one-on-one relationships to the server that I can fix something on the server. So I can't really fix anything on the server. That's I don't know. But we try to be more accommodate from the app side. So a lot of efforts have been put into the apps to make sure that it's compatible to different servers, different forums. So the difference between the Android market and the App Store, the Apple App Store, is the rating get reset every time you put out an update. So it's a good news, but it's also a bad news because if you have a bad rating on this app, right, the next time you update it, you will get reset and you will see a good improvement over it immediately. But you have a really good rating, then you put out updates that crash the apps, it will go down very, very quickly. So try to time your update with the confidence you have with the apps update and so on and so forth. We noticed that if you have 100 ratings, your sales will improve over maybe 10 ratings. But very significantly, when you hit 1,000 ratings, your sales will increase 15% or 20%. Okay. So unfortunately, for Apple, when you update the app, the counter gets reset too. So it's a little bit like going back to ground zero every time you update your app. So you can think about how you want to do it in that regard. So I talk about the app stores, but for Tapatalk, the apps itself also support many different languages. So our app support 9 languages. So other than English, we support many different languages like Spanish, German, Greek, Italian, and so on and so forth. But how do we do it? We didn't hire anyone at all, so we didn't pay $1 to anyone to translate our apps. But it's all come from the user, your fan, to really want an app with their own language. And we find there's one tool that is really useful. It's called cloudin.net. It's a crowdsourcing translation website that your user can log in to make translation for your apps directly. So I find that's really, really useful, and it's only took very minimum effort to maintain your language file up there. They support iPhone and Android as well. So I talk about jailbreaking and the privacy issues with the apps. I'm sure you can find your own apps on the, well, the first time we find our apps being cracked and at the mega upload, I was super happy. Because at least someone noticed your apps and put it on the website, right? But when the product grows, it becomes, you start thinking about whether it is a problem, whether I should do something. A lot of people put a lot of effort on copy protections. For me, it doesn't really worth any effort in the programming perspective to protect your apps because people are gonna crack it anyway. But there's one thing you can do is, there's some service like the DMCA Guardian.com. You can look up their services. They basically, they help you to send takedown notice to many websites of your product. So when they approach us, we will really doubt whether it's useful or not, but we will give it a try. And we find that it's not useful for Apple, that we don't see any significant increase in sales when we use their service. But interestingly, for Android, our sales jumped 20% after we use their service. So you can see that lots of people on Android really use the cracked apps compared to Apple. So if you have your Android apps, you may also consider using it. Around $50 a month, so it's not too bad. So I talked a little bit about Android, and I will spend the next few minutes to talk about Android as well. So when we first released our product, it's only for iOS, but we got so many feedback from users that they want Android apps. So the question is when you should start it. I'm sure you get email from users, they want apps for legal, Symbian, or BARDA, or whatnot. So you really need to think about when you start something new, the commitment you make to it. The programming itself maybe only 1 month or 2 months, but the effort to continuously maintain it is a huge effort. So don't start if you are pretty sure you want to do it. And we are pretty fortunate. We start really early. Even before the 1.5 Android, we already start our project. And for some reason, it becomes really popular among Android's power users. So all the Android forums on the internet pretty much use our product. And we make a fan base with those Android users. So they're really knowing their stuff. They have very high demand about what they want in the apps. So they want tons of settings in the apps. They want it so that they can use 3 fingers or 2 fingers to do certain things that you would never thought about to do it on forums apps. So it's a forum app, right? What do you expect? So it's really weird, but at the same time, it's also a fascinating experience. Now we got 3 full-time engineers at Android, working on Android specifically, and we become the #1 social pay apps on Android market, and also the #1 pay apps in Amazon Marketplace as well. So when we see the sales, I can talk a little bit about the sales of Android. Even though we are #1, but we only need 50% of what we have with iOS. So it's not as good as iOS, but it's still pretty good. Think about it. A lot of people talk about Android and you can't make any money on Android. They want it to be free apps and whatnot, but I still believe people want some quality apps on Android. And I think right now, the market is really big enough for individual developers to look into that, especially if you have iOS apps. But Android still has their own issues. there are 2,000 different models. That's insane compared to iPhone. There's only 4 different screen size, right? We have about 1,200 different device models to support in Tapatalk. So we actually get to see all the list of users using different devices. And it's fascinating to see a lot of them you have never seen before. So, so how do we support it? We find that there's a lot of issues with the app's Android platform compatibility issues and so on, but we find that majority of Android compatibility issues is coming from the manufacturer. They tend to make their own customizations on top of the Android device. Like the HTC has their own Sense UI, Samsung has their own TouchWiz UI, and Motorola, they had their own Motorbird. That tends to screw up the apps very badly. So we make a lot of effort to support different platforms, but what we learned that is in Android is open source, right? But you expect a lot of open source framework or tools and not. But we find that there's very few tools available on Android, open source, like the famous free trendy for iOS. We don't have that in Android. So kind of a surprise to us. And Google, they actually prefer the free apps. You can't really feel that the way they market it. I was in Hong Kong last month talking to the head of mobile in Asia. They told me that they really want all the apps to be free, honestly. And they try to push so hard on app mobs and search and so on. They feel that they're going to solve the pay apps problem. They feel that as soon as they find a way to help developers to make money on mobile without paying the apps, then they will be really successful. But I don't see that happening in the next 1 or 2 years at least. So if you have a pay app that sells well, then continue to sell it and make it better instead of thinking about should I go for the free route and so on. So we make a lot of free apps for a lot of different clients. The result is generally not very good, but a lot of them are very optimistic about maybe next year Google will figure out something for them. So so I talked about company, I talked about the clients. The Tapatalk was really a part-time project 2 years ago, but now we got full-time engineers working on it, and we start to need to really think about being how to be transformed from an individual independent developer to be a company. So well, first of all, it's to survive because tomorrow when we wake up, we don't know how many profit we can make on Tapatalk on app stores, right? Let me tell you a story. Google, 1.5 years ago, they have some problem with their market, and for 2 days, people cannot buy any apps there. So we actually get nothing for 2 days, and we thought, would that be continue? So the business can be very volatile and changing very fast if you are independent developers. So you need to really think about what you want to do as a developer. You want to build a team that can continuously producing nice products and services, or you just want to enjoy being work by yourself. Maybe you have 2 close friends work together for a product. But we tend to think very long. We tend to think maybe, what should I do 10 years later, right? I don't want to go back to the big company to work 10 years later. So we spend a lot of time how to build a better company. We start to do a lot of things outside forms. We help a lot of bigger communities to build their own products, to come up their mobile solutions and strategies. We provide lots of customizations and integrations to the bigger clients. Like in Hong Kong, we help the Hong Kong Telecom to make their own apps for their own customer support services using the Tapatalk API and technology. So that's one way to expand your business. Think about anything that you can reuse and leverage your know-how and your code and your asset. We even go into some of the very old websites, bigger company, their product support to connect the apps to their legacy system with legacy support form and so on. So we do that kind of service as well. So at the end of the day, 2 years later, we are not really only making the Tapatalk apps anymore. We build a lot of different apps for different communities. So I think looking back, it's great to really see how we grow, and the fascinating thing is we based on Shanghai. We don't. English is my second language, so excuse my accent. But you can also success in this global world in the apps economy. I think it's fascinating for everyone to have a chance to be successful.